Okay, so as you come in, just drop in where you're viewing from, where you're joining us from, whatever state you're in. We're excited to have you, and we are going to start. I just want to give you some housekeeping. Just so you know that this is a restorative approaches to policing institute. So we are going to honor the restorative process, right? And part of that process is when someone is speaking, if we're in a circle, we honor a talking piece. So for today, we're going to allow our talking piece to be the chat. So when someone is presenting, we are going to disable the chat so we can listen to understand, listen to see, how we can rethink and reimagine policing and community and how we can contribute to this great work that you're going to hear coming from our keynote speaker and panelists. And then we will open it back up. The one thing that will be available to you is the Q&A. So if you have any questions, by all means, please put them in the Q&A. And I have to tell you, as much as we want to, we might not be able to answer all of your questions, but we will work on some sort of method of how we can get your questions answered after the day ends. So with that, I am going to pass this over. I just want to say welcome again to the new people that came in, because we have more people coming in the room from Massachusetts. Yay, Walnut Creek, California. Thank you for being here. So at this time, we're gonna turn this over. I'm gonna turn it over to Stephanie Clark. She is the director of the National Center on Restorative Justice and just an all around amazing person. So I'm passing it to you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Tomay, and thank you everyone for being here today. It is really just our pleasure to host from the National Center on Restorative Justice to host you here at this Restorative Approaches to Policing Institute. As Tomay said, I'm Stephanie Clark, Director of the National Center on Restorative Justice, which means I get to serve in this role with some just wonderful people at the multiple institutions that make up the National Center. And I just want to say a few things and acknowledge the people at those institutions. And I'm going to start first with Tomay Douglas, because she's at the University of San Diego as a PhD student and has just been such an instrumental part of our team and the work that we've been doing for more than a year now. And so we're deeply appreciative, Tomay, of your work. And she's going to be serving as your main host for this institute. I also want to acknowledge that she's working with David Karp, Dr. David Karp, and he is really our principal partner at the University of San Diego. And I'm also going to say happy birthday, David, because today is David's birthday. And so please extend him some warm birthday wishes in your heart. I also want to recognize the University of Vermont. They are another institutional partner. They serve as our research and data hub, and that is led by Dr. Abby Crocker. They also have a Restorative Approaches in Prison initiative on behalf of the National Center on Restorative Justice, and that's led by Dr. Kathy Fox. And so I want to say hello and thanks to them. Our next partner, institutional partner, is really special in so many ways. They're our federal funding partner, and they work and collaborate with us directly and are incredibly supportive of everything that we're doing. And we have a special guest who's going to be sharing welcoming remarks with you, and I'll introduce her shortly. But at this moment, I also want to just acknowledge two people that we work with regularity, who are just such a wonderful support to everything that we do. And that is our policy advisor, Becky Rose. Hello, Becky, and thank you. And also our grants manager, Zafra Stork. Thank you, Zafra. Next, I want to acknowledge that, the National Center on Restorative Justice is really housed at the Vermont Law School. And there are a number of people that I now, as we sort of slowly go back into our office spaces, that I get to work with every day, who give me great joy and are just such terrific team members. So first is Professor Robert Sand. He is a founding director of the National Center on Restorative Justice and also serves as a special advisor to the National Center. Next is our associate director, Dr. Lindsay Pointer, who again brings us just great vision in restorative justice, and we're happy to have her. We also have Alana Ojibwe as our program manager, who does such great work with the whole team and the students, and Taylor Long, who is our media and communications coordinator, who is really just stretching our outreach in every wonderful technical way. And finally, there's somebody in our audience who is going to be our newest team member that we are really excited to welcome. She's here as an attendee, and she's going to be joining us next month as our new Assistant Director of Training, and that's Avery Arrington. So Avery, hello, welcome. We're delighted to have you joining the team. So before I turn to our special guest from BJA for welcoming remarks, I do want to recognize and acknowledge another steadfast supporter of restorative justice and the National Center. So this individual was instrumental in securing the appropriations that led to the competitive grants that we were fortunate to receive through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And I'm speaking about Vermont's United States Senator, Patrick Leahy. So in further support of our work and expanding restorative justice nationally, Senator Leahy has taken time to record a few words for you, our participants. So at this time, I'm going to share my screen, and it's my honor to share with you the Senator's personal message. And I'm not seeing the screen share. Let's see. I wonder if I'm going to ask a host, I can stop being spotlighted because I know I had it earlier. There we go. I've got it again. Bear with me.
Hello, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the Restorative Approaches to Policing Institute. And I'm honored to join and talk about the incredible work the National Center on Restorative Justice is doing. I look at its parent organization, the Vermont Law School, and its partners, the University of Vermont, the University of San Diego, and the United States Office of Justice Program. The center is making really important strides to expand education and research, exploring how we can utilize restorative justice. Because if we use it right, we can reform our criminal justice system. Now, we're all well aware of the calls for justice, accountability, and reform when it comes to policing in America. Certainly, no one will dispute that police officers have incredibly challenging jobs. I've been a prosecutor and now a United States Senator. I've witnessed the ever-growing complexities within our law enforcement communities, but we have to be open to new and innovative approaches. It's the only way we'll improve law enforcement and community relations. And I believe the conversations you're all having throughout this three-day institute are so critical to that goal. In fact, I just want you to know I was especially pleased to see the presenters in this year's institute include law enforcement leaders and community partners, restorative justice practitioners, and researchers. Each perspective is unique and important, and the efforts to improve the relationships between law enforcement and communities by using a more restorative dialogue, that can go a long way to build trust, but also that meets the needs of our communities. So I believe it's important for communities across the country to explore restorative approaches within the criminal justice system. And one way to expand those opportunities is through federal legislation. And I'm particularly proud to be part of efforts this Congress to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. I'm working hard to include restorative justice provisions in the bill. That would create additional opportunities for individuals and communities across the country. Take a more active, thorough approach in responding to harm. Earlier this week, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing on that draft legislation. I'm looking forward to introducing that Senate bill soon. So again, thank you all for being here today. Also, thank you for your continued commitment to the National Center on Restorative Justice. Working together, we can accomplish a great deal.
So we, of course, extend our continued thanks to Senator Leahy and his amazing staff. And next, as I said, we have a special guest. Oops, and I seem to have lost my screen again. We have a special guest from the Bureau of Justice Assistance who has remarks for you for this particular institute. So it gives me great pleasure at this time to welcome and to introduce the Deputy Director of the Bureau of Justice Assistance, Betsy Griffith. Betsy, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, and thank you so much for that welcome, Stephanie. And Tomay, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated your enthusiasm as we kick off this meeting. It's an enthusiasm I share for this work. It's this work around restorative justice is so important. And so on behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistance, I really want to welcome you today to our Restorative Approaches to Policing Institute and the opportunity to work with us and our partners at the National Center for Restorative Justice that you learned about earlier today. And I also, in particular, I get the lucky work, right? I get to sort of kick off these things, but it really is Becky and Zafra and the other team members who support the work that we do with our partners that's so important. And also those of you that do the work in the field that we really try to learn about and elevate in our work. So thank you so much, Becky and Zafra, for supporting and helping put this work together today. And it is humbling to follow Senator Leahy. As was mentioned, they have been so supportive of this work generally, and specifically the work of the National Center on Restorative Justice, and we really appreciate that support and recognition, and for his wise words about how restorative justice can be a tool that's important to us to address a number of administration priorities, one of which is obviously building trust and strong relationships between communities, law enforcement, and other partners who work on community safety and making our communities safe. And so we're really just excited today to be here to learn from you, to share a conversation, and see how we can continue to advance the work that's happening in the field in this area. A few things I just wanted to share with you is that we have, I think it's really been a year of active work and some time about 6 months before that of sort of building this up, but we were so excited to have the opportunity to launch the center and to be able to partner with the Vermont Law School and their partners to really help grow this project over the last couple of years. And it has not been easy starting new projects, particularly in a completely virtual environment. And restorative justice is the kind of work that you roll up your sleeves and you get out into the community, right? So trying to create this type of approach in that environment has not been easy. And so I really appreciate their leadership, their flexibility, and bringing lots of smart people to the table for the conversation. And I had, for those of you who were with us for the last institute, a really just wonderful conversation. And these events always are so great for me because it reminds me that sometimes when I have that paperwork to do or those tougher meetings to participate in, that it's all worth it because I can support this kind of work. And I can be reminded of the importance of the work that we do to bring smart people together to train folks, to build capacity, and to build knowledge through research. And so it's really been an exciting initiative for us to be a part of, to kind of grow. And in the way, as was alluded to, that there's a number of different ways, whether it's thinking about this in the context of violence against women, community safety, but also access to justice. How do we create and expand the tools that are available to folks in the field to solve community issues, right? Some of which should be criminal justice interventions, but I think as we know, some of the less serious nonviolent cases also require a broader set of tools, of which restorative justice is a really key piece. Restorative justice is also important because it not only helps build that trust, but it helps to improve victim services. And as I mentioned, increase access to justice for everybody that are participating in these activities. And in doing so, I think build more long-term solutions that are really founded on those restorative justice values and principles that we know are really part of the long-term solution to, helping everybody be active and positive participants in their community. We also know that restorative justice is important because it helps us to not just respond to things that happen, but also to really dig in and begin to address the root causes of crime. We know that we need to have people at the table participating that have a stake, that have been impacted by something that's happened, by an offense, and sit down and spend time together working out what should be done. What is the solution together? We all can have a piece of that, a piece of the responsibility. How can we work together? And also to make sure that in doing so, that, because we come together, no one perspective or interest is going to be unequally weighed in the favor of another, that we're thinking both about the victim, but also helping the offender, the person involved in the process, to really make a change in their life and be part of the solution. And all of that obviously is part of a stronger, larger community context, of which we know the restorative justice principles really can and should be woven into that community fabric. So we really at BJA, as part of this work and other work, are really have a goal of educating folks on restorative justice principles. We do a lot of work around law enforcement. We do a lot of problem-solving court work. We do community-based work. We work in the correctional system. These values and principles should be integrated across all of the work that we do so that folks have those tools in their toolbox and have folks that are working collaboratively with them to try to understand the patterns of why things happen within the system and try and prevent what we can, and also bring justice where we do have crime happening. So, as I mentioned before, one of the things I've learned after a lot of years of doing this work is that BJA strength comes in the fact that we are able to scan and work with our partners to identify and elevate and help people that are trying to do good, important, effective, and interesting work. And that we can learn more mostly by bringing folks together that do that work. And so we really appreciate you taking the time, because we know you can be busy, you have, other things you might be juggling, but that you take the time to bring your experience, to bring your thoughtfulness, and really through you sharing your insights, sharing information about strategies and resources you have there, through the panel presentations you'll have, but also in our circles where we really engage together as a group and bring that strength together by working together as a group. We can really reflect on the things that we learn from those presentations and those conversations and think about how is that work then going to be taken to scale and translated through other training we're doing through the center, thinking about new ways that we can support innovation and support knowledge building, and really establishing and expanding the most effective restorative justice approaches to policing. Now, I say all this, it's very aspirational, but we know the reality right now is that things have been tough. There are communities where that trust is sorely worn. There are folks overall who are asking larger questions about the criminal justice system. Again, not a bad thing to do, but I think trying to figure out ways to have productive conversations, giving folks who are involved in this work the space. I always talk about this as for innovation, you've got to take risk, right? So we've got to give people the room to be able to expand and have those tools beyond the normal way of what they've been doing business, and find some ways that they can do it, but do it in this way that works together, that makes sure that the victim's perspectives at the table, the people who have been involved in the crimes, that their perspectives at the table, and that they are being held accountable, but that we're also hopefully bringing them to be a part of the team that is bringing something positive for the future. And so, we really want to learn from the programs that you've been able to put together, what you've been able to learn from that, and think about what else it is that we can do to support the translation of this knowledge to the field. And I think what I would also say around the access to justice issue that I want to just mention is, for me, restorative justice is also very important. We do a lot of work in diversion programs, problem-solving court programs, programming that works with folks that have, maybe other issues around mental health, substance use disorder, might need, supports around employment and education, things that we know can affect their risk for being involved in future criminal activity. And we also know that there are times that folks might have been involved in nonviolent, lower level kinds of cases, that by having an opportunity for something that's more on the end of diversion or even deflection, and the use of restorative justice principles really, I think, also helps us to catch and engage folks earlier in the process, and hopefully, again, make them part of that circle that's part of what's happening positive in our communities, and keep them from more serious involvement in the criminal justice system. These are principles that our leader, Acting Director Kristen Mahoney, and leadership of the Department of Justice have been talking to us deeply about in the months since there has been a change in administration. And so we're so excited to listen and learn and be able to take those ideas back and think about how that might translate to other work. And really to think about how we can continue to grow and support this important work. And so, Senator Leahy certainly mentioned one thing that is a possibility with regard to federal funding. That would be as part of the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, would be to include some resources that would explore the use of community conferencing in those settings. But in addition, I definitely wanted you all to know that in our Department of Justice fiscal year 2020 request, which started this week, the first, or I guess last Friday, we had the beginning of our fiscal year. We're currently in a continuing resolution, but hope to hear back. There is a request that has been put forward that would educate and train, as part of our Justice Assistance Grants program, the next generation of juvenile and criminal justice leaders, with the goal of broadening their understanding of criminal justice systems and restorative justice programs. In addition to that sort of activity as it relates to our formula program, or JAG, we also have, as part of the 2020 President's budget request, a $25 million request to support restorative justice as a growing practice, and could create additional resources for folks to be able to take and use to implement the kinds of things that we're training people on through the National Center, to think about ways that we can support the ongoing, as we're researching projects, to think about maybe some resources that are needed to connect or translate that research. So, and also to take this work where we're really trying to scan the field and work with you all to identify those practices and get some ideas on things that we might want to consider elevating and including in those funding opportunities if Congress does support it. So we're really excited because we think that this funding would create really an opportunity to take further to scale this work and that we've been doing with Vermont Law School and its partners, and really have resources that can help the community to address and repair the harm that they've experienced. So we're just excited to be here, and I will turn things back to Stephanie.
Betsy, thank you so very, very much for your words, and also for sharing that exciting information about the possibility of opportunities ahead, because we are always looking and thinking about how we can expand the work of restorative justice, because it is just so responsive and applicable in so many unique and individual ways. And we just so appreciate you spending the time and sharing that information and helping us all vision what might be possible. So thank you. I want to just recognize two other groups very quickly before we really turn this over to the beginning. And this is really an important, small and special group of people. When you registered for this particular institute, if you spent any time on the particular webpage that we created and that we shared some information on restorative approaches to policing, you'll already know that this is really the result of the vision and the work of this small group of people. So these are people in law enforcement who are already doing restorative work in policing. And they joined us in February for our first institute, and that was really a think tank model. So at that gathering, those people came together, and they came together to share the work that they're doing, to learn from each other, and then to help us vision and frame what would be the salient or important way to share information nationally about what restorative justice can offer more broadly to police and to communities. So this institute, this time that we get to spend together now, is born out of that think tank. And many of those people are here now. So whether they're here as participants and are furthering the collaboration, or if they're here also as facilitators who you're going to meet throughout the next 3 days, we owe them our thanks and appreciation for really helping us bring this work forward and helping us design this time together. So it's our hope that in the next 3 days, you're going to get a basic understanding of restorative justice principles and how they apply to policing. You're also going to get some concrete examples, such as the police-youth dialogue, and get to explore the impact from those concrete examples and programs. And finally, we're going to give you some tools. There's workshops on Friday that you can learn from and take things home so that you can tailor and address community needs of your own and figure out how you can bring restorative approaches to policing in your community. So this is really the arc of this institute over the next few days. And we recognize that we have our plenary sessions that are open to everyone. And then we also have limited opportunities for people to participate in the circles and the workshops. And that's because of really the deeper engagement that those spaces really need. But I want you to know that we're going to do our best to record everything we possibly can while still maintaining that safe and private space in some of those smaller circle conversations. But please revisit the webpage because we are going to post recordings there, and it is a place for you to learn more, and we'll continue to expand that site. So you'll have this opportunity to continue the conversation on that particular webpage. So the other thing I will say is if for some reason you don't find what you're looking for, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to myself or anyone on our team. We're committed to getting you connected to the right person who can help you look and find what it is you're looking for to bring back to your community relevant to restorative approaches in policing. So my final thanks really go to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us and to share this conversation and to learn and expand the work that we're all doing. And with that, Tomay, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Betsy. That was so heartfelt. And I just want to acknowledge that we have some new attendees that came in. So if you want to just drop in the chat and let us know where you're from, we just want to welcome you and acknowledge you before we turn it over. And again, Lindsay Pointer placed the restorativepolicing.com link inside the chat so you can catch up on our partner spotlights and learn more about Vanessa Wesley and some of the amazing work that's just happening.